Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of The Beat, Washington football team's unfiltered show. I am your host, Chip Brierre. I don't need to say much to get you ready for this one. It's Dallas week. Even though the NFC East is struggling, there are huge implications for both teams between the Cowboys and the Washington football team. With the stakes high as ever, we bring in a very good panel. Scott Abraham of ABC 7, the sports director there, my former coworker. Good to see you over here, buddy. We've got Diane Roberts, VOA radio anchor, who has been covering the team for many, many years. And you know this guy, Washington tight end from 1980 to 1985, Doc Walker of the Team 980. Panel, it's Dallas week, as I already said. Sure, the Washington football team is 1-5. Dallas is 2-4. They're coming off of a demoralizing 38-10 loss. Meanwhile, Washington is coming off of a close-knit game, losing on a 2-point conversion, 20-19. So let's begin with Dallas coming into this matchup, since they were the one who played most recently. Scott, you were on the press conference with Ron Rivera, and you brought up one extra day for them to prepare for Dallas. Does this play into the advantage of Washington that they get this home game and they saw how badly the Cowboys struggled against the Cardinals?
I certainly don't think it'll hurt. Obviously, the coaching staff probably gathered around the television and game planned and watched the film of Dallas getting absolutely hammered by the Arizona Cardinals. Dallas is a mess right now. Absolutely, with the players kind of calling out the coaching staff anonymously, the turnovers, the injuries. So this is a wounded Dallas team right now coming into FedEx Field. And as you know, you mentioned it's Dallas week. Throw the records out the window. Doc can attest to this. There's nothing like a Washington-Dallas football game. You think back to the old glory days, RFK Stadium rocking. It's not going to be the same type of atmosphere inside FedEx Field, but this is a big game for Washington. One game behind Dallas, the division leaders coming in. You win this game, you give yourself a good chance to be in position to win a division title.
But let's be honest, Dallas week hasn't really meant very much in a long time. I mean, the rivalry hasn't really been the rivalry. I've covered this team off and on for 20 years, and I remember when it really was a rivalry. And back to Doc's days, even more so. But to your point, I agree. When it is Dallas week, and really any of the NFC opponents, it doesn't matter. I mean, it just really doesn't matter. You never know what's going to happen. You can go to bed and your team could be losing by 2 touchdowns, and you can wake up the next day and find out that Mark Brunell hit Santana Moss twice. So, I mean, it's Dallas week, you're right, but it doesn't hold as much water for me as it used to. Doc, do you feel that way?
Well, every game for these young guys who have never experienced it, this is when you become a part of this fabric. And the culture that they're trying to establish, you have to learn. And they have to learn to develop a genuine hate for everything that star represents. And they got to play their butts off. And they do have an opportunity. Whether they deserve it or not, they have an opportunity if they can simply stay together. Dallas is fragmented. Their locker room is torn apart. Do we have enough guts to go in and stomp them to death and then get back in this race?
Kyle Allen said this week he's not very familiar with the rivalry growing up in Texas. He didn't get those games growing up, but now he is the starter again. And Scott Turner and Ron both say Kyle Allen's mobility gives them a better chance offensively. Scott, we saw Alex Smith a couple weeks ago come out there and look like he seemed comfortable, but he didn't have that mobility. That's something that Ron and Scott Turner have kept alluding to. That's what gives them a chance offensively with Kyle Allen. Did you see enough mobility to believe Kyle Allen could get around this Cowboys defense that struggled against the mobile quarterbacks?
You know, I've been fairly impressed with Kyle Allen and the fact that he's made some really difficult throws on the move. I go back to the Giants game. They were terrific on third down. They really made some key third down conversions, and several times Kyle Allen used his legs to buy some more time, to reset his feet, to buy some more time to find that receiver. And you talked about the Dallas defense. They are atrocious. I mean, they are not good. They have given up at least 34 points in 5 straight games. So if you talk about a get-right game or get the offense rolling for Washington, this is the game. This is the game Scott Turner, offensive coordinator, should be salivating that they can put some points on the scoreboard with Kyle Allen leading the way.
Ron said every single game he has the intention of winning. No matter the circumstances, home or away, he is going to go for the win, and none more evident than that Giants game. But now he has to keep that going against Dallas. We're going to hit the break and then do some over-unders on the matchup for Washington and Dallas in what is a critical NFC East matchup with the Washington football team one game back of the division lead. Scott Abraham, Diane Roberts, and Doc Walker with me on the beat. We'll be right back.
We all know things are different. Keeping you safe is not. At Innova, we ensure the safety of everyone who comes to us with safe locations, safe supplies, safe cleaning, and safe practices. You're safe at Innova. Get the facts at innova.org/safety.
COVID changed everything. More demands on students, parents, educators. But there was a $4 billion education shortfall in Maryland even before COVID. We have a lot to do for our kids. Close the digital divide, provide opportunities to pursue vocational and technical education, and hire more qualified teachers. Question 2 will put millions into Maryland schools using revenue from sports betting. I know it won't solve every problem, but a yes vote will help our Maryland schools.
It's 2020. Let's make a splash. Play the DC Lottery's Roaring Cash.
Free healthcare. Hundreds to more than $1,000 per month in disability compensation and tens of thousands for college tuition. These are just some of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs benefits that may be available to veterans. VA is focused on customer service like never before. Choose VA and see why veterans' trust in VA reached an all-time high. Claim the benefits you've earned at choose.va.gov.
This fall, if you're looking for an adventure, find it in the new Honda, like the turbocharged Accord, the turbocharged all-wheel drive CR-V, and the all-wheel drive HR-V, with great features like second-row magic seats. It's time to explore and say hello to the open road. Don't miss your chance to get a great deal on your favorite Honda model. When it comes to the best value, Honda leaves the others in the dust. See your local Honda dealer and start your adventure today.
Welcome back to The Beat, everybody. I'm Chip Brierre alongside Doc Walker, Scott Abraham, and Diane Roberts. Some over-unders going into Dallas week for the Washington football team. The rushing attack has been poor, to say the least. 82.2 yards per game. That's dead last in the NFL. We knew the departure of Adrian Peterson was going to see a drop-off. I don't think any of us predicted it would be this bad, despite the surgence of Antonio Gibson in the backfield. So let's start with an over-under on the rushing game. More or less than 100 yards rushing for the Washington football team. Diane, lead us off.
Less.
Less.
Just
all right.
Less. That's all I'm saying.
Scott, how about you?
It happening.
I'm going to go less as well. I'd like to see more physicality from the offensive line and the play calling. I would love for them to really make an effort to develop the run. I think they're going to run better against Dallas because that Dallas defense is a sieve. But I will go under 100 yards. But I do expect maybe a couple of rushing touchdowns on Sunday against Dallas.
And Doc, round us out.
Over. We
Going
have
over.
got to. You got to get over 100. We got to unleash Gibson. We got to stop teasing him and us. And we got to commit to it. And Turner, who is doing a good job, he's got to do a better job at developing and demanding a better run game.
Yeah, it seems as though we haven't seen Antonio Gibson much, even though running the ball we have, but also those schemes, those motion plays where he's in the receiving part of the field. Maybe more of that could come into play for Scott Turner as well. We move on. Terry McLaurin, Turbo Terry, continues to be the focus point of Scott Turner's offense, and he leads the NFL in a couple of categories. So we start there at 5.5 receptions for this Dallas game, going over or under. Let's start with Doc since he had the last point.
everything's got to be over. We got to get more. We're in last place in every category, so we've got to have more in order to win.
Moving on to Scott.
Feed the beast. Over for Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry. He's going to have a big game. I have him in my fantasy football league. I'm expecting big things from Terry McLaurin. I'd say at least 7 to 8 catches, maybe a score. Terry McLaurin is going to have a big game against the Cowboys.
Scott, that's why we're friends. He's on my fantasy team too as a regular week starter. Diane.
I definitely think over. I was thinking it's 6 or 7 receptions, definitely a touchdown. I think maybe he's the sparkle. Maybe he's the spark that happens this weekend.
Here's a stat that's going to alarm our panel and our viewers that aren't following the stats as religiously as I am. Ezekiel Elliott has yet to have a 100-yard rushing game. Considering he's one of the top 5 NFL running backs in the league, that is a shocker. He's only averaging 68.8. So Diane, over under for Zeke, 70 yards in this game against Washington.
Over. The Washington football team, they give other teams gifts all the time, big play gifts, and I see him breaking out this weekend, sadly.
He also had 2 fumbles against the Cardinals, Doc. Does that give you confidence he hits the over?
No, it just means that he's teed off, and I think that they'll look at us as we look at them, and he'll say, we give up way too many chunk plays. And he's capable, even in the short passing game, he's also a threat to rip you apart. We've got to discourage him. I hope he keeps the fumbles up.
It'll be his first encounter with Chase Young. Does that dissuade you at all, Scott?
I think the big point here is Andy Dalton is not Dak Prescott. And I think Dallas is going to really try to establish the run, get Dalton comfortable. Zeke needs a bounce-back game from 2 fumbles against Arizona. And he admitted after the game against Arizona that the loss is on him. I think Zeke is going to be angry, and I think Dallas is going to make to a point to feed him often and early against Washington.
Now, before they went on this losing streak, the Washington football team defense in 2 weeks was leading the NFL in sacks and then second behind the Steelers. They've fallen off a bit with the struggles of getting through to the quarterback. That said, Andy Dalton was sacked 3 times in that loss to Arizona. So 2.5 is our number. Doc, are we going to go over or under 2.5 sacks for Washington?
We have to be over. Chase is all about the groin.
I'm noticing a theme
I figured
here.
it'd take a couple of weeks for him to get his confidence. He's still playing hard, but that quick twitch, we got to get that back. And he and Sweat, I think they will meet. They might get 2 apiece.
All right, Scott, where are we going here?
Dallas offensive line is banged up. They have 2 to 3 regular starters out of this game against Washington. It's going to be feasting season for that defensive line. They're going over that mark.
Diane?
I also say over, and sometimes I just, because of intuition, and I feel like it's going to be a big game for sacks. I think there are going to be far more sacks than people are looking for, and I'm looking at 4 or 5, and I think some of them are going to be, a couple of them are going to be spectacular, and I'm looking for Ryan Kerrigan too, maybe to get in on one of those.
So let's get to predictions. Who is going to win between Dallas and Washington? Doc, you're very passionate about this team. Get us started with a hot take.
Well, I mean, it's there for them. New York was a perfect example. We failed, played better, but failed. We got to get over that hump. Effort is now you're paid for effort, but you are pros. So play like pros and get a win. If we get a win, we can get this thing started.
Diane?
Yeah, I think Dallas is going to win, and I think it's going to, and I actually think it's going to be in a heartbreaker, not unlike the Giants game.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be in a heartbreaker.
Don't do it to him, Diane. Don't do it to the viewers. Do it to him.
That's what I see. That's what I see coming.
In
I
your
hope I'm
mind's
wrong.
eye.
I hope I'm wrong. Burgundy and Gold fans are the best fans out there. I hope I'm wrong.
There you go. Holler here. Scott?
Short week for Dallas, bye week coming up for Washington. I think it's a must-win game given the fact Dallas is one game up. I think Washington's going to win. I'm going 27-24, Burgundy and Gold. I think this is a big-time situation, a big opportunity for these young guys. Chase Young to prove himself, Kyle Allen to prove himself. I think Washington's going to get this win.
27-24 was my score, but with Dallas, actually.
With all this optimism, this could be a turning point for the franchise this season. It's something that Ron Rivera desperately wants to see to prove that they can win this division now. Before we end the show, let's get a roundabout of who we're watching this week. So Diane, what player, coach, or aspect of this game are you going to have your eyes on?
Kendall Fuller. I'm so glad he came back. I love that dude. He's exciting to watch. I think he's bringing with him that winning mentality, that winning attitude. And he's been the interception machine. And I look for him to continue those ways this weekend.
Scott, who are you looking at?
I am looking at the rookie, Chase Young. He had a heck of a debut against Philadelphia. He's been dealing with a groin injury. I think he's finally getting healthy. Big opportunity against a banged up offensive line of Dallas. I think he gets at least 2 sacks in this football game to assert himself as the top defensive rookie in the NFL.
Doc, you have the final word.
Landon Collins. Here's a guy who I put him on Zeke. And I think Landon's a hell of a player who's got to be put in a position so he can maximize his gifts. And I hope this is a week that the defensive staff brings the very best out of him, because this guy can play, but he's not been playing the way he's capable of playing. And it's up to the staff to align him better so that he can be the beast that he's capable of being.
All that is left is to play the football game. Dallas Cowboys at FedEx Field taking on the Washington football team. Thank you to our panel for being with us this weekend. Doc Walker of the Team 980, former Washington football team tight end in the 80s. Scott Abraham of ABC 7, the sports director. You can catch him every weeknight, 5, 6, and 11 p.m. Also, ABC 7 Sports Sunday, represent. Diane Roberts of VOA radio anchor, and also been covering the team for many, many years. And I'm Chip Brierre. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the game, and don't worry, even though there's a bye week next week, we will be back. See you then.
Don't let the comfort fool you. Don't let the attention to detail lead you to believe that a Honda is a delicate machine. You'd be wrong. Underneath every surface that carries a Honda badge, there has always been the capacity to amaze. Rise to the challenge with the rugged performance of the Honda Pilot, Passport, and Ridgeline.
This is London Fletcher. Join me in supporting the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration's Red Ribbon Week and National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. Talk to your loved ones about drug misuse, participate in drug prevention and education activities, and take the pledge to be drug-free. Then on Saturday, October 24th, clean out your medicine cabinet of unused, unwanted, expired prescription drugs to take part in National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. Visit DEATakeback.com to find a collection site near you.
FanDuel's new Best Ball Leagues make it easy to play season-long fantasy. Draft once and FanDuel will optimize your lineup each week. But to make it even easier...
What's up, Jeff?
We hired head coach Jeff Fisher to help Tony on game days.
I've studied the matchups, I've adjusted for bye weeks and injuries, and I'm making paella.
But I'm allergic to shellfish.
You know I can't make it without shrimp.
Thank you, Jeff. You're doing a great job.
FanDuel's Best Ball. There's no easier way to play season-long fantasy. Leagues start at $1. Make your first deposit and get a bonus worth up to $500.
COVID changed everything. More demands on students, parents, educators. But there was a $4 billion education shortfall in Maryland even before COVID. We have a lot to do for our kids. Close the digital divide, provide opportunities to pursue vocational and technical education, and hire more qualified teachers. Question 2 will put millions into Maryland schools using revenue from sports betting. I know it won't solve every problem, but a yes vote will help our Maryland schools.
At Inova, COVID-19 testing of all patients having a procedure or surgery, continuous training of our team members, and thorough cleaning of our facilities are just some of the many ways we work to keep you safe. You're safe at Inova.